The time is now 10:30 a.m. We are without our chairperson and our vice chairperson this morning, so it will be my privilege to call this meeting to order. And I will request that you designate a chairperson pro tem for the duration of this meeting, if there is a motion to do so. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of designating Shay Morris? Excellent. Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, Board Member Morris, do you accept this designation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, excellent.
All right, with that very important business taken care of, the first item for individual consideration is to approve the minutes of the November 6, 2025 MAPS 4 Citizens Advisory Board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay.
Mine just says waiting.
Yeah, it took a bit for that. And that passes. The next item for individual consideration, receive the MAPS 4 monthly financial report ending October 31st, 2025.
I'll go over the financial report briefly. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. But on the revenue side for the month, $12,094,580. Fiscal year of $50,658,148. And total of $756,707,362. Draw your attention to the 3.6% above collections, projected collections right now. Then on the expenditure side, for the month, $7,606,968, fiscal year of $35,488,428, and a total of $405,275,289.
Any questions on the budget, or do I have a motion and a second? That motion passes. Item C, recommend receipt of the preliminary report for the MAPS 4 Neighborhood and Community Parks, phases 1A, B, and 1C.
So this is the first package of parks that you approved the master plan, but Darren Scott from Kimley Horn is here to take you through this preliminary report for this first section.
Yes, good morning. Excited to be here. This is important step to get through the first phase of these parks. So want to walk you through what we've been working on and what's in the report. So as you've seen before, the master plan was approved earlier this year. So all of these recommendations are based on what was in that master plan. So we wanted to not deviate from that plan. It also consisted of extensive neighborhood outreach in close coordination with Parks Department. So we continue to do that as we work through this project. The budget for phase 1 is a little over $20 million, $20.5 million. It's broken up into 3 phases, so 1A, 1B, and 1C. Some of the budget is bond money that's included, so you can see over on the right are the bond projects that we included to go a little further with some of the improvements. And then also Washington Park has dedicated MAPS funds that's included in that budget. So 3 bid packages essentially that'll go out for bid individually. Here's a list of the parks that are in each package. So you can see 1B is a little bigger, and that's mostly because of those bond projects that are included in it. So we had a few extra parks there, and then 1C is Washington Park by itself. So we'll go through the recommendations in the report for each of the phases. So 1A is about $6.5 million. You can see down on the bottom is the list of parks, the budgets, and then there's some alternates included in there for, if the bids come in lower, we can accept some of those alternates in those parks. So here's, we'll quickly go through the highlights of the 20 different parks improvements. So Capitol Hill, or Draper Park, Capitol Hill, it's a long linear park where we really focused on connecting neighborhoods. So there's a lot of neighborhoods on each side of this park. So a lot of the improvements you'll see on here are those connections to the neighborhood. And then there's also a drainage crossing that goes through the park, so connecting across those. Here's an enlargement of one end of the park that includes a multi-purpose futsal, basketball court, and then also connection to the existing bridge. So it'll better connect those neighborhoods on each side. The other end of the park, we're adding a playground, adding a pedestrian bridge going across, and then also a shade structure. So lots of new sidewalk, playground, and then a multi-use court. H.E. Schillings, it is a park that is next to Wheeler Middle School. So they've actually done a futsal basketball court there already at the school that's right adjacent that can be accessed by the public. So we're recommending adding a playground splash pad combination. So a lot of these focuses are bringing the splash pads and playgrounds together. Some of them have been separated out. So as we replace them, we bring them together into one space. We also are upgrading park signage. There's a enhanced trail loop on this one as well. They already had some trails, but continuing that loop around. May Park, small, basically empty park currently, showing improvements of a playground, a new multi-use court as well on it. And as I mentioned, the park signage is something that we really want to try to get into all the parks as we do this. The Parks Department has a new standard, so we want to highlight that, and hopefully that'll show the new look with all these park improvements. Oliver Park. This is it looks like a large park, but it's mainly a regional detention basin, so a lot of the improvements are on the outside. So we looked at there on the south end to improve parking lot, multi-use court, some new park signage, and then lighting was a big piece along the loop of this trail. We didn't have a playground on this one because Draper Park's right next door to it, and it has the playground. So we did look at improvements across the system and make sure we weren't duplicating, as we go. And here's the end with the multi-use court, and then we also are including a fitness station on this one because of that walking trail that goes around the park. Shallowbrook Park, it is a larger neighborhood park that is getting a new playground. We also looked at goals and backstop locations, and you can see there's some dash lines out there. That's to show where the practice fields could be. So we wanted to make sure our improvements weren't taking space for those practice spaces. So we looked at that and really worked closely with parks. Also, this has an alternate of a no-mow area. It's a large park where they just mow it right now and trying to reduce some maintenance. So if we can get funds or have enough funds, we can do the no-mow area. Young's Park, it includes replacing a playground and splash pad. It's actually a neighborhood park, and the recommendation isn't to have splash pads in neighborhood parks per the Oklahoma City standards, but it already had one. So we're replacing it, but it'll be a small version of a splash pad versus some of the larger community parks that'll get a larger splash pad. And then the last one in 1A is Zerline, which is a long linear park. This is just one section of it, but it does include playground, multi-use court, a pedestrian bridge. Currently there's a utility bridge with a pipe that people have used to go across, so this will definitely enhance that connection with the new pedestrian bridge across the creek there. And then 1B, I should have mentioned earlier, on 1A, we try to geographically locate these parks so they're together for contractors to be able to work in a more geographic region. So it was the parks with the most need geographically located. 1B is a little more spread out, mainly because of the bond projects. So Mecklenburg's on the north end of town. That's because it has bond money. So that's why you'll see that one a little, outside the geographic area. But for the most part, the kind of the core parks are all consolidated together. So 1B has a budget of nearly 8.9 million. And that, like I said, that does include the bond money. Hiley Park in 1B is a small neighborhood park, currently has a playground, doing some surfacing upgrades, and then also a basketball court, and then upgrading some markers, some historical markers on the ends that needed some repair as well. LD Lacey Park is a really natural park, kind of on the east side of town. Very pretty park with a lot of trees, so we looked at utilizing the open area for a basketball and for future, potentially 2 basketball courts, but then providing connections throughout the park with a walking trail. There's a church across the 42nd Street that we were connecting to, and then also looking at future alternate nature-themed playground if budget allows. But a really pretty park that needs some improvements. Mecklenburg is an active community center within the park, so really looking at how we can activate it together. So this one did have a playground, a splash pad on each side of the community center, bringing those together to create a larger play space. It also includes a focus on inclusive play, so the budget's a little bigger on the playground to really provide an enhanced inclusive play opportunity there. All of the playgrounds will have inclusive play, but this one's a little more enhanced. It'll also include striping and resurfacing of the existing tennis courts there. So there's 2 tennis courts at the park already. Mark Twain, small neighborhood park, already has a playground that's in good condition and has some surfacing already in place. So adding some new surfacing and then a new shelter. So minimal improvements, but it already has most of the elements that it needs. McNabb Park is a long linear kind of ribbon where really pretty area. It has some drainage that goes through it, so we're working through that. But also wanted to utilize smaller play areas because of its shape, and then instead of one large area, utilizing 2 or 3 smaller for some smaller kid play spaces. Also looking at some protective decorative fence to keep kids from going out to the street on 33rd Street. Nichols Court is right in the middle of 3 Street, so interesting little park, but really is kind of a little gathering space for the community. So looking at playground improvements, shade shelter, and new signage on it. And we're getting close. There's a lot of them. Rotary, North OKC Rotary, it has already a pretty large playground in place. It had some older tennis courts and basketball courts, so we're replacing those, actually adding 2 tennis courts on this one because of the large park, including more of a loop on the walking trail, and then also the community requested a larger shade pavilion. We call it shade structure, but it's a larger pavilion for the neighborhood gathering. So about a 50 by 50 pavilion out there, so bigger than what some of the other pavilions are. So that was a request that we heard through the feedback. Riley Leroy Pitts Park, again, another community center on this park, active. We actually held one of our community outreach events there. It needs an upgrade to the playground. Didn't really have any walking loops, so we're looking at a walking loop. Some backstop soccer goal areas. It's an active park for practice, and then doing some parking lot improvements on it. Taylor Park, again, kind of the same concept with the splash pad playgrounds together, making those work better together. This one also had basketball court within the parking lot, kind of a add-on makeshift basketball area out there. So we're removing that and then creating a new basketball court, as it should be designed and built. So, and then Winans. So we got two left. Winans is, if you're familiar with Broadway, where it splits off to the one way each way. It's a interesting park where it's located. There's some issues with people hitting the end of it. There's some arrows and signage that doesn't seem to help, but working on how we can improve that with some splitter island improvements on the end of the park, some new fencing. It's an historic park, so trying to bring some of those elements back that were there originally. Working really closely with the Heritage Hills Neighborhood Association. We've actually met with them, and how they envision it, and between them and parks, coming up with the concept that they can further enhance. It also includes a crossing across Broadway to the neighborhood, so an enhanced crosswalk improvement there, and then a multi-use court to go along with it. And then the last park is Woodland Park. It's located over by Lincoln Boulevard. It's a long, linear, really wooded creek area. There's a few walking trail improvements there currently. We're adding a small playground, shade structure, some sidewalk connections, and a bridge across the creek. So it'll really provide some better connections for those. There's some apartments and neighbors there. Provide some better connections across that creek. And then 1C is Washington Park, as I mentioned. It goes by itself. $5.1 million budget on it. Here's the master plan that was in the master plan report, so the park-specific master plan, and it's beyond the $5.1 million budget as far as improvements shown. So we did have a stakeholder meeting a couple weeks ago to get some direction on what should be the priority. So we're working through that, and it seems to be a lean towards the playground improvements and splash pads, everything kind of on that west side. So we'll continue to refine this and work through the design with them as we move into 60% plans, but it'll be based off of this master plan and go as far as we can with the budget. And these are just a couple examples of the preliminary report plans are more construction document level plans. So this is just a cut of one of those. And then our cost estimates that we build with all of these. So you can see in the big report, each of the parks have this detailed cost estimate and alternates included. And as far as schedule, we are, we're here for preliminary report approval. With approval of this, it'll go into 60% plans with the idea of we would be through with design mid next year and then starting construction in the middle of next year. And right now anticipating about 180-day construction window for the 1A and 1B phases, and then about a year on Washington Park. So with that, that's a quick whirlwind of 20 of the 105 parks, and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Darren. Do we have any questions on the presentation? Yes, Chelsea.
Super exciting to see all these, a lot of great improvements to the parks. Very exciting.
Yes.
Just for clarity, the 180 days, is that with all of the parks in that phase simultaneously being under construction?
Yes. They'll all go at once, and it'll be up to the contractor to figure out how they want to phase park to park. But yes, all of them being improved in 180 days. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion and a second? Thank you, Darren. Looks like we're kind of stuck. There we go. Okay, that motion passes. Next item up is item D, recommend receipt of the preliminary report for the MAPS 4 Restoration Center. Got Dan.
Thank you. Next, we have another preliminary report. Dan Hayes from HMM is here to take you through this preliminary report for the Restoration Center.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here to present the preliminary report for the MAPS Restoration Centre, which is a mental health and substance abuse centre. It provides two very distinct but related facilities. One is a crisis centre and the other is ongoing outpatient care and what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, move on. So this is the site of the proposed restoration centre. There's Linwood Avenue there to the south, Western to the east, north is 6th Street. The diversion hub is just out of shot of this image here, but you can see the proposed parking lot that's currently under construction. To the right, there was no old, to the north, sorry, was the old laundry building that's actually been demolished. And currently on the site sits an office building that will be demolished as part of this project. We originally, back in May 24, were given a brief for the project that was estimated to be about 51,000 square foot. We took that information and we looked at a series of different test fits for the project to make sure that the site was suitable to house that, and also the supportive housing, which is part of this, which is part of our contract, but not part of this presentation. That's following on later. And as you can see here, option 2 was selected, which was basically to put the supportive housing to the east of the site, bookended with the restoration, to the west, bookended the restoration to the east, and in the middle contain the parking. So this is a site plan showing that the restoration centre to the east, supportive housing to the west. In the middle we have the parking. To enable this to happen, currently Klein goes directly north and cuts off an awkward triangular portion of the site. We're proposing to close that part of the street, which requires the reorganisation of 6th Street to turn that into a two-way street all the way along there, east to west. Currently it just runs about 3/4 of the way along there as a two-way street, and then moves into a one-way at the end. To enable us to do this requires the closing of Linwood, one lane of Linwood for a short portion of that site there to the south, and then reorientate the traffic accordingly. As we start all projects, we work with the operators and produce a graphical brief going through each individual section and part of the project, talking to them about exactly how big that needs to be, how those areas relate to each other, and whether there's any economies of saving of area where areas could double up and duplicate use. Through that process, we worked out we could actually reduce the total square footage of the building down to about 34,000 square foot, but still maintaining all the requirements for the building. Working with the operators, we developed a few key strategies for the project. One was how do we be a good neighbour to the community and a building that is open and welcoming to everyone who passes by or uses it? How do we connect to landscape and nature to really support recovery and healing? How do we create great collaboration spaces? There's lots of partners in this building, so how do we get these guys to come together and work together in a collaborative way? How do we provide healing and support spaces for individuals and for groups? How do we create a safe and secure building for the occupants and for anyone who's visiting the facility, and create comfort and make it feel as uninstitutional as possible? So they were the sort of key drivers that we were thinking about when we developed the design for the project. So this is the first floor plan. The areas that are highlighted here are the critical care parts of the project. There's fundamentally two entrances to this building. There's one for the critical services and one for the outpatient services. They're deliberately separate because most of the users of the building who will be coming for critical care will be with a first responder. So there's a drive aisle there at the top of the page that you can see that's completely concealed within the building. There's a screen that goes around that provides discrete entrance for people who are arriving by first responders. They're then taken into intake area where they're assessed and either taken to the URC, the Urgent Recovery Centre, or the CSU, the Crisis Stabilisation Unit. The URC there shown in the pink colour provides 10 chair beds and 4 actual beds and provides care for up to 24 hours. That's all located around a central nurses station. If once the clients have been assessed for that 24-hour period and if it's deemed that ongoing care is required, they'll be moved to the crisis stabilisation unit there shown in the orange, where they'll stay up to 7 days. There are 16 beds in this ward, all located around a central nurses station and an outdoor courtyard that you can see there in the middle. This allows the unit to actually be split into 2 units if in the future that wanted to be a male and female, 2 separate wings to this with 8 beds each. The 8 beds are arranged around a central sort of living room area, which is all open plan, but allows for different types of seating, TVs and things like that. And also each wing at the edges there have group therapy rooms as well. The nurses station in the middle has a direct view of all the spaces, so that they can see exactly who's coming and going to really help with the security, and they can see the front door to each one of those bedroom units, again, to be able to monitor who's coming and going when people leave their rooms. The rest of the facilities that are shown here are outpatient facilities, the majority of those shown in green. So the main entrance to the building for outpatient services is directly from the parking lot. You come through, you hit the reception area, and then behind there sits a series of drug testing rooms and offices. Then adjacent to the reception is a waiting area that also doubles up as an informal meeting area where people could grab a cup of coffee and have an informal chat. And there's a community room there, again, directly off that waiting area, and that's all around a central courtyard space that you can see there. I should have said actually that the courtyard in the CSU is something that people can access and go out and take a breath of fresh air. The courtyard that you can see here in the outpatients is more something to look at and bring natural light deep into the plan. The grey areas that you see to the top is a kitchen facility, so all users of the building able to receive 3 freshly cooked meals a day. Freshly prepared on site, and then there's some other storage and intake areas as well. This is a couple of sections through the building showing where the courtyards are located, and also the orange areas that you can see here. The taller volumes are north-facing roof lights that bring natural light deep into the space to allow occupants that view and connection again to outside and to nature. Another way we're trying to ensure that users of the building have a direct connection to nature is in the CSU, where their rooms have full height windows. Fundamentally, you don't really want windows directly to the outside in these buildings because people can come up, family members and friends can come up and disturb the occupants of the building during their therapy. So we didn't want to have high-level windows that feel a bit institutional. So they have full height windows to their rooms, and then they have a courtyard space of 8 foot deep where we have a planting zone, and then we have a mesh screen to separate between them and the street. From the outside, you can see in the middle there, that mesh screen will appear solid, but from the inside, when you have natural light behind that, you have a obscured view of the outside. And then the height of the screen is limited, which allows a view of a clear view of the sky from that window. So that's what that could start to look like. This is a view of one of the rooms. You can see directly in front of the window, you have that connection to the nature and to planting. Then you have the mesh screen with an obscured view of the city beyond, and then a clear view of the sky above. Here's another view of the CSU, the central living room space you can see in the foreground. And then in the middle ground there, you can see the nurses' station, and the courtyard is with the glass screen there on the left. There's another view looking towards the central courtyard space with the nurses' station there on the left as well. Here's a view of the URC. These are the bed chairs that recline and all located around the central nurses station. And again, the courtyard there to the left provides high-level light into that space to give users that connection to the outside. This is the waiting area and just off the reception space that also doubles up as that informal area for people to meet and grab a cup of coffee. And that's another view of that area looking back towards that external courtyard space, bringing that natural light deep into the plan and again connecting people to the outside and to nature. With the staircase that takes you up to the remaining outpatient facilities. So this is looking at the second floor plan. There's a staircase there and an elevator that takes you up to a secure waiting area. So if you check in at reception, you'll be shown, you'll be told to go upstairs, wait there in the secure area, and then a member of staff will come and take you to a therapy room or to a group therapy room. And then the blue areas that you see are the partnering facility and offices that support the building. Again, with some breakout space for members of staff who deal with quite traumatic events on a daily basis. And that's a view of that partnering space on the second floor. So we've given a lot of thought to the color palette. So there is warm, earthy tones to the outpatients, which hopefully bring a sense of safety, stability, and grounding. And then for the inpatient crisis areas, there's a bluey, greeny hues, which help reduce anxiety. And these are some views of the building from the outside. So this is the approach to the outpatient services from the parking lot as you come up towards reception. This is a view from western at the back of the building. Fundamentally, this is the area that doesn't really want any windows to the outside. So by bringing in these mesh screens and these layering and planting, we've created quite a dynamic facade. And that's another view of the corner on Linwood there. You can see very clearly we're using glass where we can to the entrance and reception area, which really opens that space up and clearly defines where the entrance is. And then again, landscape, as I've mentioned a number of times, is key to this project. So I've been working with a landscape architect to make sure that there's a relatively low maintenance landscaping scheme that is native where possible and can bring visual interest throughout the year. So that's just looking in a bit more detail at the entrance area with the planting, denoting some key trees to again highlight where the entrance is. This is the courtyard that gives that visual interest from reception with some key trees that will be really quite dramatic in that space. And then this is the courtyard in the CSU that people can walk and enter. We deliberately, there's no planting in this area or anything that can be picked up or damaged. So we've introduced a yoga meditation pathway onto the floor, into the concrete. There's some artificial turf there and some seating elements in concrete that can't be moved or used as a weapon. And then looking at the cost estimate, we've worked very hard to make sure that this project comes in on budget. With the land acquisition savings, as the land was donated to us, including the construction and FF&E, the total project budget was just over 18.5 million. And our estimate has come in at 18.5 million, just under. So we're very pleased to be bang on budget. Then looking at the schedule, so as I mentioned, we've been working on this since May 2024. We've submitted our preliminary report that's currently under review, and then we're hoping to get approval for that to move into task 2 in January. And thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay, do we have any questions for Dan on the presentation? No, seeing none. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second? And that, pardon me, that motion passes as well. Moving on to item E, recommend authorizing negotiation of an operating agreement with Oklahoma City Housing Authority for the MAPS 4 Supportive Housing Operating Partner.
So an RFP was put out, and we received I think we had 3 responses. Only 2 of them we found were appropriate. And we did interviews. I say we, there was a panel of city staff and 2 members from this board. And they did interviews and are recommending that we negotiate with Oklahoma City Housing Authority for operation of the housing that would be attached, so to speak, associated with the facility that Dan just showed you.
And there are no questions on that for David? Okay, do I have a motion and a second? And that motion passes. Moving on to item F, recommend approval of change order number 5 with EMC Services LLC for the MAPS 4 sidewalks and related amenities Phase 1B. And this is for the vicinity of Southwestern Avenue and Southwest Grand Boulevard, the vicinity of South Pennsylvania Avenue and Southwest 51st Street, and vicinity of Southwestern Avenue and Southwest 134th Street for an increase of $3,400.
Yeah, so this is one of the ongoing construction projects that we have, specifically a sidewalk project. And there is a tree that we were working around as they started working. Homeowner asked if we just take it out. It made more sense for construction, so that's what the change order's for.
And any questions on that? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second? And the motion passes. Moving on to item G, recommend approval of change order number 2 with Rudy Construction Company for the MAPS 4 Innovation District Connectivity Phase 1. This is in the vicinity of Northeast 8th Street and North Lincoln Boulevard, vicinity of North Lottie Avenue between Northeast 8th Street and Northeast 15th Street, and vicinity of North Lincoln Boulevard between Northeast 4th and Northeast 10th Street for an increase of $70,300.
So similarly, another predominantly sidewalk project. It's in the Innovation District, and what I would consider routine construction items, the largest being the unclassified excavation. That's dirt that had to be dug out in an area to make the sidewalk fit better. Actually, it's for a retaining wall to make the sidewalk fit better. Light pole base rehab, so when they uncovered the base, it was too rough to set pavers as designed, so there was some chipping and rehab in there. But the rest of the items, you know, $3,000, $4,000 for relocating a water meter, inlet reconstruction, a flume, then a substitution of a different kind of redbud tree. And then there's a contract time change at no cost. And that has to do with some of the materials that weren't available in a timely manner, and also trying to work out some of these issues like substituting the trees. But project's going great.
Okay, if there are no questions, can I get a motion and a second? Okay. And that motion passes. This next one is a mouthful. Item H, recommend adoption of resolution extending time to award the construction contract for the MAPS 4 CB Cameron Park improvements at 11711 North Portland Avenue, ratifying and approving addenda numbers 1 and 2, awarding the construction contract, base bid plus alternatives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and accepting the unit prices to Downey Contracting LLC for $23,969,103, approving contract and bonds and authorizing the use of $6,138,003 of unencumbered MAPS funds, which will be reimbursed from 2025 general obligation bonds to assist with funding the contract for Ward 8.
So, Madam Chair, let me point out that you have a amendment to the board, and the only change is that $6,138,000 number is $4,138,000.
Thank you. I missed that. Thank you, David.
So this is the award of contract for Cameron Park Soccer. So let me kind of walk you through this. The $23 million consists of other monies, including $2 million of park funds. But what we will need is the $4,138,000 of bond funds, which have been approved by the voters but have not been sold yet. So what we're proposing is that we advance money that's within the MAPS program to cover that. So because we have to have that money to encumber this item to get the contractor going, to have a PO for it. And then the program would be reimbursed once those bond funds become available. We anticipate that being in the next year. This is similar to what we've done on a couple of other projects, and I'm blanking to remember which ones those were, but we have advanced funds to cover. I think we did that on the Coliseum. But it's a short-term advance. And it doesn't harm any other projects within the program because we have the cash there.
Any questions on this? Yes, Chelsea.
Was the Family Justice Center one of those projects? Is this the similar one we advanced?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Awesome, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion and a second? And that motion passes. Item I, design update on the MAPS 4 multipurpose stadium.
You may have seen this already in the paper. Subcommittee saw it yesterday, but Travis Pauley and Phil Colby are here from Populous to take you through this exciting development with the multipurpose stadium.
Yes, we're super excited to be here with you this morning and talk to you about this. I know, like David said, a lot of you have probably seen some of the images that have come out within the last 24 hours, but we'll dig a little deeper into the project here this morning and show you where we're at with this design. So I'm here. I'm used to seeing a lot of you for the Coliseum. Excited to be here now for the stadium. And alongside me is Phil Colbo, our principal on this project, and he leads all of the soccer practice in Populous. So we got the best of the best here on this project for us today and throughout. This morning we'll look through a quick rehash of our program and where we started and where we are right now. We'll look at the site, and we'll go through the floor plans, and then we'll jump into the design, and then we'll talk briefly about the budget and schedule look ahead. So we'll get right into it here. Programming. Where we started out on the left there that you see is where we started with our very original program when this became a MAPS project. We had a $41 million budget and about an 8,000 seat capacity to the stadium. We were starting really early with not a lot to go on, and that's kind of where we started. Since then, a lot has happened between site selection and preliminary design, looking at what we could get for that original number. And then the big thing was October 14th, we passed the bond and got some additional funding for that. So that nearly doubled our funding for the project, and we're up to a construction budget of about $94.1 million right now. That includes, our goal within that is a 10,000 capacity stadium USL ready, women's soccer ready, concert capable, elevated patron and team facilities, and then partial canopy coverage was our original goal, and some auxiliary locker rooms so we could do tournaments and things like that. We're targeting going above and beyond that with a few key areas here. One being maximizing the flexibility of this space. You'll note that it's called the multi-purpose stadium, not just the soccer stadium, and we really want to stay true to that. If you talk to Echo, our operator, they have a target of making this the busiest outdoor stadium in the country. So we're really trying to maximize flexibility so this can be used by everyone. Football, high school sports, concerts, events, everything else that we can think of to throw out there on that stadium. Upping the premium experience options, expanding our canopy coverage, considering expandability for the future, and integrating with the district that will eventually go around this stadium. When we started this, Echo did a study to look at market feasibility and the viability for the interest in the stadium. So basically, a study went out to see how interested people were in the stadium, what their level of interest was, what kind of sports, seating, all that kind of stuff. They had an incredible response from it. So typically in these things, they're looking at like under 1,000 people that get responded to this. This had over 3,000 respondents. It was incredible, super strong support for the new stadium, strong support for both men's and women's programs, and a really high level of interest in purchasing reserved seating. And that has proven true in the last 24 hours. So with the launch yesterday and the press release, the campaign for the first group of reserved seating went out. They call it the Founders Campaign, the 1910 Founders Campaign. I can report, Court gave me permission to go ahead and talk about this. They already have over 1,500 seats reserved. So just incredible. They were shooting for 1,910. They're already at 1,500 in 24 hours. So the level of support is just out of the roof. But these numbers on the right are kind of what guided us when we looked at what kind of seating we're going to put in the stadium. You can see over there, there's general admission, different levels of club, suites, and all that stuff. So that kind of guided us when we looked at how we're going to design this bowl. All right, let's look at the site. Obviously, we have an incredible site here. You guys are all familiar with it. We're directly south of Bricktown, right next to the convention center. The new Thunder Arena, the Boathouse District is right to our south where they'll have the Olympics. So the site is just phenomenal. We sit right in the middle of that site. We kind of back up to I-40 there. You can see just some schematic kind of blocking of how the site may develop in the future around us. But we're centered right on the site with I-40 behind us and looking out towards downtown. So some key factors that we took into account when we started kind of shaping this stadium and seeing what it wanted to look like are on the screen here. Obviously, I-40 is a big factor. We've got the noise and the traffic and everything, but it also gives us a ton of opportunity with exposure, right? It's not pedestrian level exposure, but there's hundreds of thousands of cars going across that every day. The sun and prevailing winds kind of guided our canopy design, and then obviously we have the great view out towards downtown there on the north that we wanted to capitalize on. So that's kind of how I got that U-shaped stadium that we're looking at today. As we zoom in a little closer at the ground floor level, you can see we've got kind of three buildings that create that U. The building on the west is our main building that houses our lockers, our club spaces, our premium press, all of that stuff that can't look into the sun. Up on the second level, that's on the west side building. The south and east side buildings are what we call concourse buildings. They support restrooms, concessions, and all those support spaces that the fans will engage with in the seating bowl. Sorry, on the north side there is the main entry gate, and that's where it's open out towards the downtown area. We'll look at the west side and stuff a little bit closer in the plans here. So as we dig into the plans, this is the concourse level. Important thing to note on this level is the field is actually almost 6 feet below this level. So as you walk into the stadium, the field will actually be recessed. It'll give a really intimate feel there with a lower bowl going all the way around the seat. That'll go all the way around. You can see there right around the field. The field is sized to support soccer, which works really well because essentially that means it can house everything else too. That's the biggest pitch size, and so football will fit within that soccer field, and any other sports can fit within that. Over on the left side, like I said, is our main west building that has our lockers and club spaces, and then those two concourse buildings on the east and the south there, and we'll zoom in and look at that a little bit closer here. So this is our west building. It's got our, I'll kind of work left to right here to talk through it. It's got our ticketing office right there on the lower left corner. And then the two big areas are the areas kind of in teal there, which are our locker spaces and our player facilities. Important thing to note here is equal men's and women's lockers provided. Once again, hitting on that flexibility theme. Not only are there equal men's and women's, but we've tried to design it so that there is an operable partition between those two spaces. So when it's not men's and women's soccer or men's and women's any other sports, that can be opened up and it can be sized for football. So soccer teams need about 24 lockers. We put 30 in each of those locker spaces so that when we open it up, it can be 60 lockers for a football team. Additionally, we've got 2 on each side when it's a soccer, so if we have tournament play or anything like that, or back-to-back games, all 4 of those can be utilized at once and teams can be rotating through that space. Right in the middle is our main club space. You can see that opens up to the lobby. When you walk into that side, you'll see straight into that club space. Really nice event space. That wall between the lobby and the club we're envisioning as operable glass so that they could even open that up. We want to utilize this facility as much as possible, not just on game days. So the idea is that's a leasable space, a rentable space that can be used outside of game days. Be an awesome space to rent out for events. You're looking right onto the field from there, so it'd be a really nice space. And they can either use just the club space or they could open it up and use the entire lobby and club space as one. Another thing I'll point out is that has direct line of sight onto the field when you're in that club. Just north of it there is the ramps down to the field and the kind of player entrance onto the field with those steps. So the players will come in from the locker rooms on either side, walk down there, and then walk down those steps. And so if you're in the club, you get to see the players walk right by and walk down onto the field. So really neat game day experience there. On the right side, you've got your visitor lockers and player spaces there. And on the far right is our main kitchen area, which has direct access to deliveries there on the right. As we go up a level, this is our suite and press level. This is right above that west building that we just looked at. Zooming in on that, this is essentially comprised of just suites and media, broadcast, coaching, all the technical rooms that need to look straight onto the field. So the green spaces there are broadcast, press, and coaching spaces. The orange spaces are suites. We've got about 3 different sizes of suites for different levels of experience. Above all that, this is kind of our top of bowl plan and our roof plan here, so you can kind of see how the bowl all comes together. We have diversified seating all throughout, so a lot of general admission, obviously. On the south side there, you see kind of a uniquely shaped space on the south end of the stadium. That's the supporters section. So if you're used to watching soccer, one of the awesome elements of it is right behind one of the goals. They always have a supporters section that's just solid wall of color and flags and everything else. They're standing the whole game. So we integrated that into our seating bowl. It's actually recessed a little bit below the rest of the bowl so that when those players are standing, they're not blocking the line of sight from everybody else. That's why it's got that unique angle. We've got some loge type of products integrated into the corner there and throughout. 4 top type of seating and drink rail type of seating that groups and friends can sit at. On the west side, your plan left side, it's where most of the premium spaces are. So club seats that have access into that club that we just showed, as well as some outdoor club spaces, and then the suite seats above those.
Before we go on, I just want to make a comment too. So we've designed the seating bowl really to be as adaptable as possible. We have loge positions, which are like the 4 top seats, so we're really about stratifying, the offering. So you have supporter section, then you have GA, then you have loge boxes, club seats, and then suites. So you have lots of different offerings all throughout the facility. And then to that then is this ability to adapt the sideline. So we can actually put those loge boxes anywhere down that eastern sideline that we want to. So it's built to do that. We can do overbuilds. It's a really easily adaptable. And then additionally to that is this idea on the north side. It's completely open. We have the lower bowl that goes from the concourse level down to the pitch. And we've sort of located that pitch at the perfect level. We're above water table, right? But also low enough that we could get those first few rows down to the lower bowl. But on that north side then accommodates the ability to bring in temporary stands if you need to increase the capacity for the stadium as well. So it's really about that idea of adaptability and being able to grow and understand your stadium and sort of grow with that as well.
So we'll evolve and develop that as we move throughout the design process with the feedback that we get from Court and Echo and their team on the ticketing. So they're going to, in addition to reserving spots, they're saying where they want to sit. And so that will kind of tell us how much seating we need of different areas. And so like Phil said, we're trying to design this so we can really easily change that throughout the course of not just the design, but even in the future, if they need to adapt that. And then this looks like a really simple plan, but the important part of this is you can't see any seats. So this is our canopy plan. The only seats you can see is that lower bowl on the north side. And so this was a big thing that we've been trying to achieve and really wanted to do if we could, is get a full canopy coverage. That really enhances the entire environment. It feels like a true soccer stadium in there, but it's also an awesome stadium for all the other events. Not only does it cover you from weather and wind and everything else, but it also increases the atmosphere in there. The sound bounces off that roof. It just gets a much more vibrant kind of soccer atmosphere when you're inside the stadium. And it gives it kind of the iconic look from the exterior that we all were hoping for. All right, as we jump into design, I'm going to hand it over to Phil to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so thanks, Travis. So we really covered, the fundamentals of the interior. So now we're going to sort of flip over and talk about, how we think about the exterior expression and how this facility sits within the city. And so we really wanted this to, be rooted in Oklahoma and reflect, a sense of place. And one of the things that we were really inspired by was this idea of these rolling fields of wheat, right? And that's really is a good metaphor for this facility, because you have, these individual stalks that come together, just as individual stalks are in this, field, so are patrons within a crowd or citizens within the community. So we thought that was a really great metaphor to start with. In addition to that is the idea of the beautiful skies, these sunsets and these sunrises, and how they come down and meet the horizon. And I think that's really the key, is where these two elements meet together. And I think that's really where it's very powerful, is this idea of these, the rolling fields and this dynamic, changeable sky, it's this idea of adaptability, but coming together into this like limitless horizon that's just expansive across both, where these pieces come together. And so really it's that then not just, within the community, but it's really about this idea of, what's beyond the next hill? What is the future for Oklahoma City? And we like those two aspects really as inspirations for this facility. And so like that's kind of a tall order, right? How do we execute on those designs? And as we looked around, this idea of, rhythm and repetition we saw, very common throughout other facilities. But what happens in those is they're really sort of concave. They're really finite to themselves. The lines are sort of like internally, almost like a fortress. And we didn't like that. We like the idea of like the sort of the repetition that's very like, wheat-like, very sort of, bringing things together to create a form. Many small things creating a bigger form. We really like that idea. In addition to that, but we wanted to make a little bit of a twist on that. So additionally, we sort of took a lot of, these are some facilities that we've done in the past, this idea again of adaptability and changeability, and these thoughts of multi-purpose, and how do we make that expression sort of changeable and adaptable? And other ways that we've done that on TQL here on the left and then Allianz Field in Minnesota on the right is this idea of like lighting up the facade. And that by doing that, we can change those with different lights or even potentially projections. And so what you could do is you could advertise what's happening in that facility, and it could be different all the time. So it's not just a static sign or that represents just the teams, men or female for the soccer component, but also other activities that happen within the facility itself. And so really how we started then is this idea of these stalks of wheat, but instead of sort of wrapping in and sort of closing in the stadium, we really wanted it to sort of bow outward, almost like bowing, right, in deference to the community that it serves. And so, on top of that, then we begin to wrap this scrim element that sort of follows that bowing outwards. And that really sort of starts to gain in vertical scale here on the south side, which would be on the left. So that really sort of fronts on I-40 and really has that bigger civic scale where you have cars driving by at 60 miles an hour. So how do you sort of, digest the stadium in that quick aspect? And so that's where we can really have that idea of advertisement, and not advertisement, but really just communicating what's inside the building, inside to out. And then the canopy itself, really this idea of, it is enclosure, right? This idea of sky, but it really sort of protects and amplifies the fans' impact on the match, keeping that inside to the stadium. But it's really about like where these two pieces come together. So you have that sort of bowing of the wheat and the component of the sky coming together into this infinite point that continues to expand out to the horizon. So it's really about communicating that all the way out to the horizon. It's about what's outside bringing in rather than inside out. And we really like that idea. And so it really becomes something that's absolutely unique to Oklahoma City, right? There's no other stadium that has this sort of outward bowing facing piece. It's all the motifs of design language becomes enclosure and sort of finite and within an object rather than out to the horizon. So we're really happy about the way that comes together. So then if we bring together, really the function, nuts and bolts, and that outward expression, you get the full building itself. And so here we are looking south. You get to see the edges of the stadium sort of expanding outwards. You get to see the civic scale really a lot taller, really more higher speeds, sort of bookmarking its place on I-40 here on the south, but also really opening up and being much more pedestrian friendly on the north side, where we just break down that scale. So it's really an adaptable facility within itself. And then again here on the south side, where we're looking at the skin as it's lit up and dynamic and changing to the events that are happening inside the stadium itself. And then finally inside, where you get to experience these events with 10,000 of your fellow citizens and fans. And looking out into the city onto the north side, we have the main scoreboard here in the center, the premium component on that, basically center left, where you have the club on the lower level and the suites up above that, the premium stack. To your left, at the end, right behind the goal, you have your supporter section standing, creating that impact onto the match, rattling that near goalie if they're on the other team, or supporting it if they're on their team. And then the multipurpose aspect, where you have the ability to change it over into concerts or other facilities or graduations or any other events that can support the community. And then we'll move on from the dynamics to the numbers, to budget. So our cost estimate, we're coming in, total construction cost is at $108.8 million. And so how we work the budget then, we have the MAPS and TIF and bond funding, which is currently coming in at $94.1 million. And so again, this is just a first look at the stadium. So we're going to continue to work the project cost down. And then we're looking into other donations to kind of keep that cohesive picture, the inspiration for the project intact. So we're finding ways to meet those things in the middle through private donations, additional funding, and sponsorships. And then last but not least, just a quick schedule just to kind of give you a bookmark of what's happening as we go forward. So today, December 2025, we're providing the design update. January 2026, we'll be back here in January doing the preliminary report. It'll be a little bit more comprehensive version of what you're seeing today. Then construction document, that phase starts. So we're going to be drawing the building from January until May 26. And then throughout that time, and I think that's the next presentation is the CMAR one, where we'll talk about how we can start to overlap design and construction. That's going to help our schedule. So construction is going to start sometime in spring 2026, and about just over a year and a half, complete in December 2027, with an opening in the spring of 2028. That gives the team time to sort of understand the building, have some sort of opening events, and then be ready for that big opener. And with that, we'll take some questions.
Questions for Travis and Phil? Okay. Seeing none, thank you both.
Thank you so
I
much.
guess
Thank you so
you're
much.
probably not moving very far, are you? Let's see. Can I get a motion and a second?
It's just an update.
Oh, you're right. Okay. All right. Moving on to item J, construction manager at-risk presentation for the MAPS 4 multipurpose stadium.
So as we look at these larger
Jason's doing it.
projects like this stadium or more complicated projects, the city traditionally does what we call hard bid, a single bid. With these larger projects, we're looking at an alternative delivery system. And Jason Cotton is here to explain what that is and go through the construction management at risk method. So I'd like to turn it over to Jason and he can take you through that.
Good morning, board members. Great to see everyone this morning. I promised to get you out of here quickly and on to lunch. Hope everybody had a great holiday. So as David said, this is a new delivery method for the city of Oklahoma City. It's one that is, I would say over the last 20 or 30 years, become basically an industry standard. At a lot of municipalities and public institutions, private entities use construction management at risk. So the main reason that we're talking to you about this morning is that this is going to look a little bit different to the board as these contracts and design documents come to you. And so really the intent is just to explain this a little bit so that when these documents come forward, you understand what's going on and what this process looks like. So I'm going to go through this really quick. There's a lot of information here. Obviously, when we get done, feel free to ask questions, and we'll go back and cover anything that we need to. So really, as it relates to construction delivery methods, there's really 2 or 3 different methods. And as David described, hard bid is the delivery method that the City of Oklahoma City has traditionally used. In a hard bid delivery method, the owner holds the design contracts, and the design team, really the way to think about hard bid is this process of hire a design team, let them design the project, then bid the project, and then bid the project, hire your contractor, and start construction. It's really this linear start to end project. And so on a hard bid project, the City of Oklahoma City hires a general contractor, and really they own all of the subcontracts and all of the risk really associated with construction. So in a hard bid delivery method, the city selects the really the lowest responsible bid. That's how the general contractor is selected. And so when the design documents are completed, the project is put out to bid, and the lowest responsible bidder is who is selected and who a contract is essentially awarded to. So on a construction management at risk project, it's a little bit different. Really, the construction manager in this case is selected very early in the process typically, and so a lot of times it's even before design is complete, potentially even when design is started. And really, they are there to assist the design team and the owner throughout the design process in terms of preparing the project for construction. And so they help with a multitude of things, and I've got a slide here in a minute that talks about that a little bit. But really, they're brought in really early, and they're there with the design team, with the owner throughout design and construction. On a construction management job, the construction manager actually plays a larger role in bidding the work. So remember, on a hard bid project, the City of Oklahoma City is bidding that work. On a construction management project, the construction manager is intimately involved in bidding what we call trade contracts, and so you'll see that here in just a minute. There's a third delivery method, which is called design build. I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail. The only reason it's up here is for the sake of completeness. It's a delivery method that's allowed by Oklahoma State statute. Really, the only time that design build is allowed for political subdivisions, which is what the City of Oklahoma City is according to state statute, is really on water and wastewater projects. And so the MAPS 4 program obviously has none of those types of projects in it, and so it's not one that we will really get involved in here with this program. So we're not going to spend much time on it. So this is just a really quick graphic of what a hard bid delivery method looks like, and so you can see the owner there, the City of Oklahoma City. They hold a prime agreement with the architect. The architect has several subconsultants that work for them under their contract. And then on the other side, on the construction arm of the team, as I mentioned, the city publicly bids. They award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder. That general contractor has subcontracts, and obviously they're there to help support the general contractor and complete components of the work. One thing that I think will help really kind of drive home the difference is on a hard bid scenario, the City of Oklahoma City, as the owner, doesn't really have a lot of what we call line of sight down to the trade level. And so, there's a bid form. The general contractor fills out the bid form. A lot of times it's a single lump sum bid, so they'll fill in a number to complete the project. When the city receives that bid, they really don't know how that bid was developed. And so all they have is the number to go off of. And so that's very different from what it will look like using construction management. The City of Oklahoma City will have a lot more line of sight into how the bids came in for various components of the project. The city frequently has other direct consultants. There's construction testing, there's sometimes environmental, there's all types of other consultants that the city uses to support the projects, and so that's actually consistent between the delivery methods. For a hard bid delivery method, and really any delivery method that we select, I think it's important to understand that the Department of Public Works at the City of Oklahoma City really administers the construction process, and so they're heavily involved in the selection process for design teams, the bidding process, like all of the things that are necessary for the city to select teams, award contracts, all of those things. The Department of Public Works is intimately involved in that. And so that will be the same on construction management, but I think that's important to note. As I said, hard bid is traditionally what we've used at the City of Oklahoma City. One thing to note is on a hard bid delivery method, the City of Oklahoma City must pre-qualify general contractors. And so in order for a general contractor to bid a construction project at the City of Oklahoma City, they've got to meet certain pre-qualification criteria, and that enables them to bid work. And so even though the lowest responsible bidder is selected, there's kind of a minimum bar that all of those bidders must meet in order to be able to bid the work. And so will be something that's a little bit different on the CM at risk work that we're doing. On most hard bid projects, we typically just have one bid event. And so, as I mentioned, this kind of linear process, we finish design, we bid the work. There are some instances where we might have a couple of general contractors working. So like, an early demolition package to prepare a site for construction would be an example of having a couple of different general contractors. But in general, typically on a hard bid project, we'll have one construction bid event. And so that's something that will look a little different moving forward. So what is construction management? I think it's, one way to think about this is construction management. Instead of hiring a general contractor to construct the work, we're really hiring what I would describe as a construction consultant to really partner with us during the design process. They are a construction consultant, but they also have a role and a responsibility in executing the work, and so they're just brought on much earlier on. This is a list of some of the things that they do, some of the value that they provide the team. They do things like cost estimating, constructability reviews, development of procurement strategies. One of the things that, as an example, that occurred during COVID, and to some degree it's still going on today, is there's a lot of items in a construction project that have extremely long lead times. And so electrical switchgear is one that is notoriously problematic for projects. And so really having that construction manager on the team early, that group can advise the owner, the design team, hey, you're wanting to open this building in June of 28, but in order to do that, we've got to bid switchgear today. And so it really is a great value to have them on the team and have them inform that conversation. The other thing that I think is a big benefit is cost estimating. And so most of the projects that we do as under a hard bid delivery method, the design teams that come forward to present the designs to the city, like some of the presentations you saw today, preliminary report, the design teams are frequently prepared. They have either an in-house cost estimator or they're hiring another cost estimator to prepare a construction cost estimate for the project. And so what happens is we obviously all hope that they are on point and understand the numbers, but there's always a chance that we get surprised on bid day with whatever's going on in the market. And so the idea of having a construction management delivery method, that construction manager is there early on. They're very connected with the market and have a better understanding of pricing frequently. And so really the end result is that it minimizes the risk for the owner to get surprised on bid day. If you've got a budget issue, you find out about it a little earlier on, and so that's a big benefit on most projects. Even though the construction manager is hired as a consultant, they still hold all the subcontracts. They're fully responsible for execution of the work. Like nothing from that perspective changes under this new delivery method. So this is what construction management at risk looks like. It obviously looks very similar to the last graphic that I showed. The one difference that you'll see here, you'll notice on the construction side of the team, we typically refer to this group as the construction manager. They still have subcontracts. You will sometimes hear them referred to as trade contractors. The work that the trade contractors bid are sometimes called trade packages, and so you'll hear that term from time to time, and that's really just describing the packages of work that the construction manager is bidding to their subcontractors. And so I think that's important for the group to understand. As I mentioned before, the construction manager at risk, it's a qualifications-based selection process. And so that's really stipulated by Oklahoma Statute Title 61. You'll hear it referred to from time to time. And so the City of Oklahoma City, just like they would select a design team based on qualifications, they would do the same thing when they select a construction manager. Construction managers would submit all of their qualification statements. The city of Oklahoma City would go through those, and without trying to negotiate a fee for their work, they would select a construction management group. Typically, the early contract negotiations are for something called pre-construction services, and so you'll see that from time to time. I believe we're going to have, my understanding right now is that we are going to actually use construction management at risk on the multipurpose stadium, and so as those contracts come forward, you'll see that the initial contract includes pre-construction services, and for that's for all the things that I just described previously. All of the trade contractors, one thing that's really important to understand is that even though we're hiring a construction manager to manage the work, all of the trade contracts are still publicly bid. And so we will publicly bid structural, we'll publicly bid, earthwork, we'll publicly bid utilities. And so all of the, I guess a way to think about it is all of the, the local companies that would have otherwise bid that work in a hard bid delivery method, they will still bid that work. They will bid it they will basically respond to the construction manager's bids and submit bids for those trade packages that I described a minute ago. So it doesn't preclude open participation in the bidding activities, I guess is maybe another way to think about it. One thing that is really much different on a construction management at risk project is instead of getting the single contract at the time of the completion of design, typically we will bring it forward for the board's consideration in pieces. And so you'll see various amendments. You might have one project that's construction management at risk, but the construction contract might come to the board in 5 or 6 pieces or amendments. And so you'll notice that as we move forward. There's really not a single best, these are, one of the things that we've talked a lot about over the past couple of years with the city of Oklahoma City is that there's really no single best delivery method that's the best one for every project. It should really be a project by project decision. And so we've talked about that a lot. The MAPS program as an example, we're constructing sidewalks, we have sidewalk projects. Well, there's no need for the city of Oklahoma City to hire a construction manager at risk to construct sidewalks. There's plenty of more than capable general contractors that can execute that work. The city of Oklahoma City is sophisticated enough that they can administer that work. There's no question about what the project might come in from a pricing perspective. It's not technically complex, and so it really is unnecessary in that example. So item 3 here, just kind of reiterating that the way that we think about it is every project has got kind of a risk profile. And so really selecting a delivery method is really based on the risk profile of the job and what makes the most sense for the owner. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. This is just some other comparisons on how to choose, how we kind of think about choosing between the delivery methods. Smaller projects frequently lend themselves to more of a hard bid type approach, whereas construction management risk projects are typically on the higher end in terms of construction cost. Sometimes if there's a really aggressive schedule, you will need to consider construction management at risk. I think you'll see that here in just a minute. And then we've already talked about complexity. One of the things that, as I mentioned, construction management risk, they do a lot of pricing work early on. One of the things that I think the entire AEC industry throughout COVID, there was so much market volatility, and so every day no one knew what they were getting on bid day. And so we believe that that's part of the reason that entities like the city of Oklahoma City and others are moving more to construction management at risk. It's not that it's less expensive or anything like that. It's just you get a better understanding of what projects are going to come in at on bid day, and so that's a big benefit for most clients. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. I know everyone's trying to get out of here. I think this is really important just to kind of understand these at a high level. So this is the typical city of Oklahoma City hard bid process. As I mentioned, it's very linear. During the green bar that you see up there, that's a lot of the administration work that we're doing early on in terms of selecting a design team. The orange bar there is all of the design activities. So the presentation from Populous today, as an example, was really that preliminary report milestone that's shown there. At some point, they'll finish plans. But this is what this looks like from start to finish. And so on a hard bid project, we would then bid the work at the end of design. We would award a construction contract, and then we would execute construction. And so as you can see, it's this very linear start to finish process, very sequential. So construction management at risk, not always, but frequently, it really stacks these activities up on top of one another, so you can be doing things in parallel. And so we have the same administration process at the beginning. In addition to the design contract, we're now hiring a construction manager at risk early on, so you'll see that in this alternate version. And then really the design team, as they would have in a hard bid project, they start designing the project. And so the primary difference here is that with the construction manager on board early, they can advise the team, the owner, the design team, these are the things that we need to start bidding now. And so you'll notice in this graphic, the design team in this case is really at 50% design development. They're only about halfway through the construction documents. But it could be that there's a bid event that needs to happen. It might be frequently on larger projects, we have things like site enabling work that's done early on, might be earthwork and utilities. And so we would go ahead and bid that work. The construction manager would bid that work. And then we would do an amendment to their contract that would enable them to go ahead and get started. Even though the design team is not completed with their construction documents yet, the construction management team is bidding work and actively working on the job site. And so I think you can kind of follow the rest of this. The design team and the construction team are working in parallel, working on, the design team's working on finishing the documents, the construction team is working on finishing construction. And so the last bid event is really the last amendment to the contract, and you can see kind of, if you compare this to the last graphic that I provided, you can see how this, in some cases, depending on the project, could potentially condense the schedule. And so that's another benefit of construction manager at risk. So I've already talked about this a little bit. This is our last slide. We're getting to the end of this. This is really a list of how this will look different for you as a board when we use construction management at risk, how this will be look from the public's perspective. As I mentioned, there's a public advertisement for construction management at risk services, just like the city of Oklahoma City would advertise for an architect or an engineer. We'll award a construction management at risk contract very early, and so you'll see that on some of the projects that we're doing using this method. And then similar to hard bid, the board, city council will review and approve all design deliverables. The final plans still have to be approved by city council before we go to bid. That's required by city charter, and so that will still be a necessary component of the process. And then, as I mentioned, after the public bid events occur, the construction management contract, the amendments to their contract will come forward. And so depending on the project, you might see 4 or 5 or 6 amendments that come forward depending on the scale. And so those, again, are just additional pieces that we're basically the construction manager's buying out and that we're adding to their contract in piecewise fashion. So that's it. I think we're kind of getting to the end of this thing. So I don't know if I held myself to the time I intended, but I think I'm done. So if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Any questions for Jason? None? Okay.
I have a
Thank you. That
question.
was very helpful. Oh,
Sorry.
Jessica, yes, please.
Have we done this for any other project?
So
For maps?
For maps, no, not yet. Not yet. The multipurpose stadium will be the first project that we're doing this way for maps. But there are other projects, David, I don't know if you want to add to that. There's a couple other projects at the city.
Right, so we're doing this process for a MAPS 3, the Union Station project, but it's just now really getting started on that. Public Works is using this on a couple of projects, I believe, but really we're using this on the arena right now, the MAPS office. It's not a MAPS project, but this is the way that the industry is going, and we actually don't get a lot of people bidding our projects as much as we used to because they don't hard bid projects anymore. So this is not to say that we're going to go this way, like Jason mentioned, on all our projects, but as we see the appropriateness, we will.
I had a question too, Jay. So in the overview of the steps that happen next, does the city hire the consultant, the construction manager? Do we still go through the process of reviewing the contracts like with a subcommittee through here, or will that just be a hire that is done through the MAPS office or the city?
No, it will look very similar, if not identical, to the selection process that I think some or all of you have been involved with as it relates to design consultants. The city will advertise, there'll be a committee formed, there'll be a short list prepared, a subset of who responds to the advertisement will come in and interview, and then there'll be a recommendation made from that process that will go to city council and so on and so forth. So it'll look very similar, it'll just be a construction team instead of a design team. So, yeah, great question.
Any other questions?
I just have
Yes.
one follow-up.
Of course.
So how is a construction manager at risk different than an architect coming through and saying, like what we did similar to the pedestrian bridge, where we had to buy the steel early, and it was a recommendation from the architect? What am I missing?
You're trying to understand the difference between hiring a construction manager and
And the architect, saying, because I'm assuming we're going to have an architect for the,
Yeah, so we'll still have the same design professionals, but we'll bring a contractor on early to be a part of that team and help us understand estimates and availability and constructability issues. They will still ultimately act as a general contractor, but we will be, as Jason calls it, line of sight with the subcontracts. So on a hard bid project, the general contractor gets his subcontracts in line and assembles that as a bid. What we will do now is actually bid individually those other packages. So we will see that we don't usually see. It's a different way to get essentially to the same point, but allows us to have a contractor working with us to tell us, if you did it this way, you could save this much money, or steel has gone up here recently and concrete would be cheaper, those kind of issues.
Yeah, so in the example that you asked about, Jessica, so where we arrived on the pedestrian bridge is this strategy of purchasing the steel early. So that decision really was made through a lot of industry research that the design team did, the city did, ADG Blatt did. A lot of energy went into making that decision, and so what we're really talking about is bringing a partner on board that can help the city navigate that decision, because they have a lot of industry connections and a better understanding of construction markets and things like that. And so in your example, we would have likely ended up at the same solution with the construction manager. It's just a more efficient process because they're on the team earlier. Does that make sense?
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks,
That was
guys.
very helpful. Okay, moving on to number 3, discussion items. Are there any for today?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Number 4, Maps for Citizens Advisory Board Subcommittee Reports. Are any subcommittees wanting to speak? Nope. Number 5, update status of the Maps 4 program with Dave.
Just real quick, Diversion Hub continues, still on schedule, looking great. I encourage you to drive by there and see it. Palomar is now vertical. There's columns in the air, so that's going great. The street is open so that we don't inhibit Christmas shopping downtown and circulation. Animal shelter is going great. Structural steel is up on that. Of course, we continue working on sidewalks and bike lanes. So a lot going on in the field, even more still going on in design.
That sounds great. Number 6, comments by board, staff, and citizens. Anybody signed up to speak?
Shay, I just wanted to say thank you for chairing the meeting today, and please
My
don't
pleasure.
slap me when you walk by.
Well, now I
After I
know
did
that
that.
if I don't want to be recommended, I should raise my hand first.
There you go.
Recommend somebody else. No,
Thank
it was
you.
my pleasure. Any others? No? With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much. Hope everybody has a good holiday season, and see you in 2026.